Hi everyone, it's Kelly here. Welcome to my channel if this is your first time. Welcome back if you've been before. Lovely to have you either way. On this channel we talk books, and today I am hauling a big bunch of books that I picked up in the month of September. I'm going to start, as I always do, with books that are brand new and then move on to the result of my secondhand book hunting, which is a pretty sizable pile this time around, and as normal my new books are a much smaller pile, but I do have a few to talk to you about today, so let's get straight into them. The first book is called Palestine, A 4,000-Year History by Nur Masalha. I purchased this book because Nur Masalha, the poet, on his social media said, I'm not going to be talking to anybody about Palestine and Gaza unless they've read this book. And I'm like, well, I don't anticipate that he and I are going to have a conversation, but just to be prepared, I need to read the book. So I bought the book. So as you know, the title suggests, this is a book about the history of Palestine. And on the back, it just, in a very, very brief summary, says, from the late Bronze Age through to the present day, this is the definitive history of Palestine and its people. So, sounds helpful, sounds thorough, and if Nur Masalha says to read it, I'm going to read it. So, there's that. The next two books I'm going to show you are books that I pre-ordered and they came in this month. So these are not books I selected this month, but here they are. The first one is Who Deserves Your Love by K.C. Davis, How to Create Boundaries to Start, Strengthen or End Any Relationship. She has been speaking about this book pretty extensively on her social media, and it just sounded fantastic. So I pre-ordered it because I was excited. It says, is love conditional? How do you navigate a relationship when someone's best efforts are causing you pain? Should you stay or leave? In Who Deserves Your Love, licensed therapist and TikTok sensation K.C. Davis tackles these tough questions with warmth and insight. This practical guide explores how vulnerability and trauma shape our connections, offering tools to help you discern who truly deserves your time. With radical honesty and compassionate touch, K.C. explores how conflict can be a form of intimacy, small moments strengthen relationships, coping strategies around vulnerability foster stronger bonds, emotional regulation and boundaries are essential, a relationship decision tree can empower your choices. Packed with lists and diagrams, which she's shared quite a few of those on her social media, so if you're interested, you can go and check that out. To guide you through the complexities of love and relationships, this book is the clear and concise guide you need to find love and be loved exactly as you are. Fantastic. The other pre-order that came in was actually a book that I spoke about as being a highly anticipated book for me, and that is Cursed Daughters by Oyinkan Braithwaite. I read her book, My Sister the Serial Killer, a couple of years ago now, and it was a 5-star read for me. So when I heard that she had a new book coming out, I was like, yes please, pre-order. So it says, no man will call your house his home, and if they try, they will not have peace. So goes the family curse, handed down from generation to generation, ruining families and breaking hearts as it goes. And now it's calm, rational, and Niyi's turn, who, due to her uncanny resemblance to her dead aunt Monif and her family's insistence that she must be a reincarnation, has long been used to some strange familial beliefs. Still, when she falls in love with the handsome boy she saves from drowning, she can no longer run from her family's history. Is she destined to live out the habitual story of love and heartbreak, or can she escape the family curse and the mysterious fate that befell her aunt? Sounds great. The next book that I picked up is a book I heard recommended by a disabled reader, somebody who is pretty active in the middle grade and I guess to some extent probably YA as well, reading space in Australia. And I can't remember her name, I'm so sorry. I read about this in an article. and she recommended a book that had an autistic protagonist, and was really good. She's autistic herself, and that book is Social Cue by Kerr. So I think this one might be kind of more like a YA, but like maybe a like actual high school YA, not a like after high school age YA. You know what I mean. So it says, Zoe Kelly is starting a new phase of her life. High school was a mess of bullying and autistic masking that left her burnt out and shut down. Now with an internship at an online media company, the first step on the road to her dream writing career, she is ready to reinvent herself. But she didn't count on returning to her awkward and all too recent high school experiences for her first writing assignment. When her piece about her non-existent dating life goes viral, 18-year-old Zoe is overwhelmed and more than a little surprised by the response. But with a deadline and a list of romantic contenders from the past, she is hoping one of those old sparks will turn into a new flame. Social Cue is a funny and heartwarming story about deciphering the confusing signals of attraction and navigating a path to love. I don't know if this is Own Voices, but my guess is it probably is. Let me just see if there's like a little... Here we go. Yes, it is. So this is a diagnosed autistic person, author, writing, and I am excited for this. We love an Own Voices moment. Okay. The next two books are the last two of the brand new books that I picked up, and these are books that I've had sitting on my wish list for very different reasons, but sitting on my wish list. And when I went to, I think I might have ordered these when I ordered the Palestine book, and I was just having a look to see if anything else was like on sale or a good price, and these two I decided to pick up at the same time. This one is called The Interpretation of Cakes by Allan Tegg. Now, it's the idea of this book is what's drawn me to it. I've subsequently seen that this has one review, and that review is not very positive. But one review is not a good metric, so, you know, let's find out. Okay, The Interpretation of Cakes is like no other novel you have ever read, and is one novel that you will never forget. It's 1916, and Isaac Brodsky has inherited his family's patisserie in the Jewish quarter of Budapest. Here, in the midst of shelves overcrowded with marvellous mouth-watering cakes, Isaac discovered that offering his customers the right cake leads to their psychological growth and his own, and so the 20th century science of cake analysis is born. This novel brings Budapest's cafes, streets, and people to life in a charming, joyous, and irresistible romp through the beginnings of psychotherapy and the mysteries of the conscious and unconscious mind. Thinking and indeed eating cake will never be the same. This author is Australian. I didn't realise, but here we are. And this is a debut novel for this author as well. So, I'm interested to get into this. It's very short as well, so maybe I'll be able to read it real quick. Oh, but the text is very small. Okay. We'll see. We'll see if this is any good. And obviously for very different reasons, this book is called Rock Flight by Hasib Hourani, and it is a poetry collection. I am always looking for poets to expand my collection of poetry, and this one just sounded really interesting. And on the back it just says, eat a date, keep the stone, put it in your pocket. That's very intriguing. But here's the actual synopsis inside. Oh, okay, this is a single poem. So Rock Flight is a book-length poem that, over 7 chapters, follows a personal and historical narrative to compose an understated yet powerful allegory of Palestine's occupation. The poem uses refrains of suffocation, rubble, and migratory bird patterns to address the realities of forced displacement, economic restrictions, and surveillance technology that Palestinians face both within and outside Palestine. Let me just pause for a moment and see. Okay, this came out in 2024. So we would have some elements of what is currently happening, the genocide currently amplified, happening right now in Palestine, some elements of that, but not obviously the more recent iterations of that. So yeah, this should be interesting to read. It depicts a restlessness brought about by dispossession and a determination to find significance in fleeting objects and fragments. It looks to the literary form as an interactive experience, and the book is an object in flux, inviting the reader to embark on an exploration of space while limited by the box-like confines of the page. Formerly claustrophobic, the poem morphs into irony, declaring everything a box while refusing to exist within one. Amazing. Now, this is published by Giramondo Publishing, which is an Australian imprint. So I'm wondering if this poet lives in Australia, because it was this book was published here. Interesting. Yes, he does. He lives in Sydney. So yeah. He's a Lebanese-Palestinian writer, editor, arts worker, and educator living on Wongal country in Sydney. So there we go. So anyway, I'm looking forward to getting to this. I really love discovering new poets, and obviously the topic of this poem sounds like something that I really want in my brain. So yeah, those are the new books that have come into my collection this month. Let's get on to the second-hand books now. Continuing on with poetry, we're going to start with two poetry collections. This one is called W.H. Auden Selected Poems, edited by Edward Mendelsohn. I won't go into reading this. I guess this is kind of a classic, and I don't normally give synopses for classics, but obviously this is a poetry collection for the poet W.H. Auden, so that's exciting to now have. And this one is called Armistice by Carol Ann Duffy, a laureate's choice of poems of war and peace. So that's interesting. Okay, so Carol Ann Duffy, I thought this was a poetry collection by her when I picked it up, but it's not. This is a collection of poems by many different poets, although there are some, at least one I can see Carol Ann Duffy has written that's included. It's the very last poem. Are there others? This is like a big list. A big list. So I guess these are all poems that are to do with war. It says on the back, the Armistice of 1918 brought a ceasefire to the war on the Western Front, and so marked the end of the most devastating conflict the world had ever known. In this affecting anthology, Carol Ann Duffy guides us deep into the act and root of armistice, its stoppage of arms, its search for truce, its desire to suspend hostility. The 100 poems, okay, that's why the list is so long. The 100 poems of armistice circle the First World War from all times, from our earliest records to some contemporary, specially commissioned pieces, reminding us that 1918 is not a ceasefire that stands alone in history. These are poems of war and poems of peace that memorialise the horror and the tragedy of conflict. At the same time, and in Armistice, they become a record of renewal and a testimony to hope. So that should be an interesting collection to read through. Okay, moving on now to some non-fiction books that I picked up in the month of September. I was very excited to find a copy of 84 Charing Cross Road by Helene Hanff. This is a book I've heard lots of people talk about. I do really want to read. It's epistolary letters, and it says on the back, in 1949, Helene Hanff, a poor writer with an antiquarian taste in books, wrote to Marks & Co. booksellers of 84 Charing Cross Road in search of the rare edition she was unable to find in New York. Her books were dispatched with polite but brisk efficiency, but seeking further treasures, Helene soon found herself in regular correspondence with bookseller Frank Dole, laying siege to his English reserve with her warmth and wit. And as letters, books, and quips crossed the ocean, a friendship flourished that would endure for 20 years. So this is a memoir told in letters of this correspondence between these two people. The next one is Little Weirds by Jenny Slate. Is this non-fiction or are these stories? I feel like they're essays. Anyway, we'll find out. Let's read together and find out if this is actually non-fiction. It says, to see the world through Jenny Slate's eyes is to see it through as though for the first time, shimmering with strangeness and possibility. As she will remind you, we live on an ancient ball that rotates around a bigger ball made up of lights and gases that are science gases, not farts, don't be immature. Heartbreak, confusion, and misogyny stalk this blue-green sphere, yes. But it is also a place of wild delight and unconstrained vitality, a place where we can start living as soon as we are born, and we can be born at any time. In her dazzling, impossible-to-categorize debut, well, there you go. Is it non-fiction? Who knows? Slate channels the pain and beauty of life in writing so fresh, so new, and so burstingly alive that we catch her vision like a fever and bring it back out into the bright day with us, and everything has changed. Well, there you go. So Jenny Slate is a comedian whose work I quite enjoy. So I saw this and I was like, yeah, let's get it and read it. The last of the non-fiction books from this stack, actually that's not entirely true. There's a non-fiction book in the classic stack that's about to come next, but of this little stack anyway, is The Season by Helen Garner. Helen Garner is an Australian author who has written both fiction and non-fiction. This is a non-fiction book, and it is about, so she's, I'll just read the back instead of trying to summarise it. A book that I haven't read. It's footy season in Melbourne, and Helene, because I was reading Helene Hanff. Never mind. Come back, Kelly. It's okay. Restart. It's footy season in Melbourne, and Helen Garner is following her grandson's under-16s team. She not only goes to every game, give or take, but to every training session too, shivering on the sidelines at dusk, fascinated by the spectacle. She is a passionate Western Bulldogs fan with an imperfect grasp of the rules, who loves the epic theatre of AFL football. But her devotion to the under-16s offers her something else. This is her chance to connect with her youngest grandchild, to be close to him before he rushes headlong into manhood, to witness his triumphs and defeats, to fear for his safety in battle, to gasp and to cheer for his team as it fights for a place in the finals. With her sharp eye, her generous wit, and her warm humour, Garner documents this pivotal moment both as part of the story and as silent witness. The Season is an unexpected and exuberant book, a celebration of the nobility, grace, and grit of team spirit, a reflection on the nature of masculinity, and a tribute to the game's power to thrill us. Helen Garner, I think, is just one of those, like, classic Australian writers. So, you know, I was happy to get that one. And I believe this is her most recent release. When did this come out? I think it was last year, in 2024. All right, so one more stack. So now into the classics section. The first one, as promised, a non-fiction. This is a book by Colette, and it is called Looking Backwards Recollections, with a new introduction by Alison Hennigan. So Colette is an author who I sort of vaguely collect her books. She writes fiction books, and they were kind of, I guess, transgressive in their time. And she's just a really interesting person herself. And so I'm just interested to read basically anything that she's written. And this is this is a non-fiction book, a reflection on her return to Paris in 1941, where she had been living in rural France for safety because of the war. So she, it says here, Colette, already crippled by arthritis, yet finds hope and the prospect of liberation in the dark days of the Nazi occupation. In this immensely touching volume of recollections, as in the later The Evening Star, She draws on vivid memories of a happy country childhood to counterpoint vignettes of the endurance, ingenuity, and generosity of spirit she observes among the people of France and their determination to survive wartime danger and privation. So, that's Colette. I also got a copy of In Cold Blood. Actually, this is non-fiction too, isn't it? Because this is about... this is a crime thriller. Yeah. So yeah. Basically, this I think is supposed to be kind of like the beginning of novelistic non-fiction, specifically about like crime, and it's supposed to be amazing. So I was happy to get a copy. Also, I have a copy of Breakfast at Tiffany's in the penguin orange spine style edition, and so this felt like a fitting addition to my collection because it matched the other Truman Capote book I had. I also picked up a copy of Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I already own this, I discovered after I brought it home, in a much nicer edition, but I think I probably will hold on to this at least for now, because the other edition I have is like a fancier edition, so this might be more appropriate as like one to actually read. I don't know. And it's in the Penguin Black Spine edition. My stack is getting a little bit big there. And the last of the classics that I picked up was a copy of Animal Farm by George Orwell. Just noticed that no, it's gone. Let's just let it fall. Animal Farm by George Orwell. I already own a copy of Animal Farm, and in fact a nice copy of Animal Farm, but I couldn't go past this one. It's really beautiful, and it's in like perfect crisp condition. So yeah, I was very excited to get that one. I'm just going to do a quick shuffle and we'll continue. Okay, we are back. How many more minutes have I got on my phone? Well, my camera, 7. So we need to speed through these ones. So this is now, the rest is just fiction, but we'll start with a short story collection, which is An Ordinary Ecstasy by Luke Carman. So this is 7 stories exploring the lives of people whose days are marked by anxiety and tenderness and exaltation. Goes on to talk about who those people are. Carman captures the scale of emotion as it grows in intensity, often comically, from the smallest and most ordinary things. His stories may be said to embody a principle observed by the novelist Joseph Conrad: there is not a place of splendour or a dark corner of the earth that does not deserve, if only in passing, a glance of wonder. So, sounds fantastic. I also picked up a copy of Heat and Light by Ellen van Neerven, and this was an author buy because although I haven't read any Ellen van Neerven, she's a poet and fiction writer who is Aboriginal, is an Aboriginal writer, and so I've heard good things about her work, and this I think was her debut fiction. It says it's award-winning as well on the back, which is great. It says, over 3 parts, Ellen van Neerven takes traditional storytelling and gives it a unique contemporary twist. In Heat, we meet several generations of the Cressinger family and the legacy left by the mysterious Pearl. In Water, a futuristic world is imagined and the fate of a people threatened. In Light, familial ties are challenged and characters are caught between a desire for freedom and a sense of belonging. So it sounds very interesting. I managed to find a second-hand copy of The Safekeep, which I'm very excited about. This was shortlisted for the Booker Prize in 2024, but it won, I believe, the Women's Prize in 2025. So I've been on the lookout for a second-hand copy of this book, and I've sort of been thinking, maybe I'm not going to find one, maybe I should just buy myself a new copy, and then here it is. So very excited about this one. I won't go into that one and tell you the summary because it's been everywhere. This one is Swimming in the Dark by Tomasz Jedrowski. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. Apologies if not. It says, Poland, 1980. Anxious, disillusioned Ludwik Glowacki soon to graduate university, has been sent along with the rest of his class to an agricultural camp. Here he meets Janusz and together they spend a dreamlike summer swimming in secluded lakes, reading forbidden books and falling in love. But with summer over, the two are sent back to Warsaw and to the harsh realities of life under the party. Exiled from paradise, Ludwig and Janusz must decide how they will survive, but their different choices risk tearing them apart. This was a really interesting kind of random find, and this is what I love so much about secondhand book shopping, is just the like, and new book shopping in bookshops, is the sort of like, you know, you never know what you're going to find and whether it's going to be good or bad, interesting or not, but this sounded interesting to me. This book is called Flock by Lyn Hughes, and this is all about a couple, I believe, and one of them is a wallpaper designer. So the flock is not about bird, it's like flocking on the wallpaper, and while that's sort of happening, the woman, so he I believe, Francis, that could be a man or a woman, couldn't it? We'll find out when we read the book. No, his. Okay, Francis is a man. So as Francis pursues his gift for designing exquisite wallpaper, Lillian finds that the ordinary life she craves remains frustratingly beyond reach. So that's one timeline. The second timeline is their daughter Adelaide, and she returns sometime later and discovers more stuff about her parents. Two more books. This one is Green Dot by Madeline Gray. I've heard good things about this one, but I couldn't tell you what it's about, so let's find out together. Hera Stephen is clawing through her mid-20s, working as an underpaid comment moderator in an overly air-conditioned newsroom by day and kicking around Sydney with her two best friends by night. Instead of money or stability, she has so far accrued one ex-girlfriend, several hundred hangovers, and a dog-eared novel collection. While everyone around her seems to have slipped effortlessly into adulthood, Hera has spent the years since school caught between feeling that she is purposefully rejecting traditional markers of success to forge a life of her own, and wondering if she is actually just being left behind. Then she meets Arthur, an older married colleague. Intoxicated by the promise of ordinary happiness he represents, Hera falls headlong into a workplace romance that everyone, including her, knows is doomed to fail. And the last one, I'm very excited to have found a copy of Unfinished Business by Shankari Chandran. This is a thriller by this author. I read, what is the name? Her Mars Franklin winning book, Chai Time at Cinnamon Gardens, and I loved it. It was amazing, so I was very excited to kind of get other books in her collection. Have I read any of those other books? No, not yet, but I will, and I'm excited to have this one. So it says, Sri Lanka 2009, decades of civil war and bloodshed are being brought to an end at last by any means necessary. Oh my gosh, I don't have time to tell you about this. My camera's about to run out of time, so look it up yourself. Right, that is my collection of books that I have picked up this month. Thank you very much for watching this video. Sorry for being a bit rude there at the end. Looking forward to chatting with you down in the comments. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.